right, we have Daniel Madrid back on the show. He's going to take on Impa Kasanganay next Friday night in the main event of LFA 84 for the vacant LFA middleweight title live on UFC Fight Pass. Daniel, how are you, man?
I'm doing good, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing great. There's a lot going on with you, and there's a lot going on around the world right now with the widespread of coronavirus. It seems like things are going to get a lot worse before they get better here. That's a pretty rough way to start an interview, but how are you reacting to all this news and everything that's been going on?
To be honest, man, I haven't really been focusing on it too much. My wife's been kind of giving me the details about it here and there, just from what she hears on the news and on the radio. Our biggest concern was that they were going to shut down this event coming up. But from what I've talked to my management, everything seems to be good and on track. So I'm not really too concerned about it. I'm staying focused on what the task at hand has to be done and just go from there.
Obviously it's a bad thing going on. You got family and people that you love around you, but in terms of the fight itself, you're acting as if the fight's happening and that's it at this point.
Yeah, basically, man, that's all I can do. Like I've spent almost 9 weeks getting ready for this camp. And I don't want any other side distractions coming into play. It's just I have my mind just completely focused on one thing right now.
So we'll keep this positive and we'll act as if this is all going down the way it's supposed to, because you are scheduled to face you're scheduled to face a very tough rising opponent in Impa Kasanganay, and you're coming off another fantastic performance in your own right. In July, you submitted Chris Harris at LFA 72 in under a minute, fourth submission win in a row. In a very self-critical sport like MMA, it's hard to find a whole lot wrong with that result, right?
Yeah, I agree. It's like I said, I've after my loss to Ian Heinisch, I had to really sit back in the lab with my coaches, and then I have this really good friend who's been working some psychology with me, and he's got my mindset on a whole different level now. I'm thankful for everything that comes my way, and it's just my opportunity to showcase everything. Do
you feel like more fighters should sort of tap into that psychological side? Because this is a sport with swings, both physical and emotional, and I think it's an important lesson for a lot of fighters to learn. It's not for everybody, but how much would you recommend that to, say, maybe a young teammate that's on the rise that may be having a hard time with these swings?
It's a great question. You're absolutely right. It isn't for everybody. It just depends on what type of fighter you are. If you need that raw aggression to step into the cage and use that as fuel, or if you treat this as just a job. For me, it's a job, but it's something I'm very passionate about. And you're absolutely right. It's both physical and emotional warfare, not even coming necessarily from the opponent, but yourself. And for me, it's more of just the reassurance of that I'm using my God-given gift in a positive way, and I'm able to entertain the fans, my family, my friends with what I'm naturally good at.
There are fighters that I've talked to over the years that they're just so, and you mentioned you battle with yourself a lot of times in the sport, and they're so enthralled with the fight game and getting ready, the build up and, the day of, and pacing around and walking to the cage and getting in a fight, and then it's just gone. It just goes away after the fight ends. Have you ever had to deal with sort of that post-fight depression that a lot of fighters I've talked to have had to deal with? Because once it's gone, you celebrate the win, or you get over the loss, and then you're just like, oh man, I just had all this time to prepare and get ready for a fight, and now it's like it's left me. I don't have it right now. I need to get it back.
Yeah, to a certain extent. I mean, I'm always eager to continue to push and just keep looking towards the future after that objective has been obtained. With me, you're absolutely right. It's that whole, like, you just spent 9 weeks beating the shit out of yourself. And then, the last 3 fights of mine no, 3 out of 3 of the 4 fights have ended in, I think, a total of like 6 minutes. So it's a crazy game, man, but I just keep looking forward to it, and I love it.
How do you release all that extra adrenaline once a fight ends? Like, you go in there, you finish a fight in 52 seconds. What do you do to sort of release that leftover adrenaline?
I don't know. I've never had that issue. Like, I've never had this like huge amount of like adrenaline that I have to get rid of. It's like once the fight's over, it's like the job's done. I get to go home. I get to be with my family. I think that's what it is I get to go home. I get to hug my daughter. I get to kiss my wife. I get to hug my sons. Everything's good. Like that's my way of releasing it. That's like my big sigh of relief.
That's your goal. Just let's get home safe and be with the family.
Exactly.
So now you're going to get Impa Kasanganay next Friday night. 6-0 as a pro. All of those wins happened in 2019. He was on the Contender Series. For some reason, the UFC opted to pass on him for the time being, which I think surprised a lot of people. So now you get to be his biggest test to date with the shiny gold belt in the line. Has he been a guy that's been on your radar? Have you been paying attention to his quick rise on the scene at all, or is this the first time you've heard of him?
To be honest, and nothing against him. I haven't even heard of him. It wasn't up until the Contender Series is when I'd seen some highlights, and I thought it was an exciting fight. I think both him and Hill put on a great show. I'm excited for the opportunity. I'm thankful that LFA has given me the chance to fight for the belt against someone who has definitely proven themselves in less than a year. He's tough. He's athletic. I mean, it's a great stylistic matchup.
We mentioned the sort of experience levels you've had, the swings of the sport. You've been at this for a while. You've won a lot. You've lost some, and you've experienced the highs and the lows of the sport, the swings that we talked about. Impa hasn't had those experiences through his young career. He hasn't experienced everything that you have. Do you see that as an advantage heading into this fight, having that overall experience and learning all the different lessons you've learned over the years that he just hasn't quite learned yet?
Absolutely. It's along this crazy path. Like I've had moments where I've lived in a very heightened state of excitement, just from the wins I've received over the people I've fought in. And there's also like the extreme downs where I should have had wins, but it was just mistakes and the same mistakes that I've made time and time again. And like I just previously said, against Ian, it finally like hit me in my head. I was like, something's got to change. Like I've got to make these adjustments. Otherwise I'm not going to go any further in this sport. And since then, like I believe everyone's seen like a whole new Daniel, and I think coming into this fight, I think experience is going to be a really big play on my part and just dictating where this fight is going to go on my own terms.
Yeah, because I think, very few, like Khabib Nurmagomedov is like one guy that I can think of. John Jones, I guess technically you could say it as well. Like very few go through the sport without suffering the heartache of a loss and dealing with that. And, on top of that, knowing who really has your back and supports you because they love you when you win and they'll turn their back on you quick if you lose. But obviously you have some very important people in your circle. I've talked to fighters who say that is the most important lesson that you can learn in this game. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, man. It is 100% comforting, and it builds this. It's more than a bond between my coaches, my training partners, my family, my friends, and the fan base that I have. Like it's I can't even tell you in words how much that means to me, and it goes beyond anything I could ever say.
Let's talk about your team and who's in the gym with you day in, day out, getting you ready for this fight, who you've been working with, who you've been taking punches to the face, delivering punches in the face to get you ready for next Friday night.
Oh man, my coaches are Mario Velez Jr., Sandro Lapara, Travis Azevedo, Tommy Martin. My strength coach is my wife, Nora Madrid, and then my psychologist coach, I guess we'll call him, is my buddy Kai Lewis. They've all had equal parts in building who I am from the very beginning until now. And then all my training partners, there's a lot to list, but just the Legion MMA family, like I can't thank you guys enough from the bottom of my heart for what you guys do. And then all of my J Pages affiliates and my Professor J Pages, like without them, this is without it.
Is visualization a big part of this psychological game for the sport for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's 3 times throughout the day where I'll set aside 25 minutes and either I'm shadow boxing or I'm sitting down in a chair or I'm lying down and I'm visualizing every second of the 5 minutes for each round on how it's going to go, both best case scenario, worst case scenario. What am I doing? I'm completely I'm always analyzing what can be done and how to get that W.
Is that part of the changes you made after the Ian Heinisch fight, or is that something you did in some way prior to that?
I I've added on to it. I've always done the visualization, but I haven't spent as much time on it as I should have been. Um, but with this one, like actually with the past 4 or 5 fights that I've had, like I've spent a lot of time, you know, just making sure that I'm confident in the skills that I bring to the table and that I'm able to openly express my gratitude and everything else for the people around me and the organization and my opponent as well.
From a skill set and a physical standpoint, obviously Impa, very gifted athlete, very strong guy. He's like a natural in this sport. It's hard to come across guys who just pick it up as quickly as he have. But from a skill set perspective, what's that intangible that you're going to bring to this fight that no matter what he does to get ready for this fight, no matter how athletic he is, he's just not going to have an answer for it?
He, you're absolutely right. He's very skilled. He's very athletic and he's very strong. And he definitely has a gift and he's working on it. For me, it's just every aspect. I think the ground is going to be leaps and bounds about what he's used to or what he even knows. My ability to control in any position on the ground is what's going to be very vital for me. But not only that, I think my stand up, where I believe I didn't get to watch his second to last fight, but even if I was to compare the fight against Hill, it was very sporadic. Hill was just constantly in his face, jumping around, throwing some very unorthodox strikes, and I'm not that type of striker. I'm more of a traditional Thai striker. Everything's pinpoint. Everything has a purpose, and I try to land at least 78% of my strikes to where they need to go. So that's going to be the key to success here.
How do you get this done next Friday night? How does that LFA 185-pound title get wrapped around your waist?
It's staying true to myself. That's all it is. I'm not concerned with what Impa does. I know he's going to have a strong game plan coming into this, just like I am. Again, I'm just thankful. I think that's my driving force behind this is that I'm thankful for every opportunity that I'm given, and I'm ready to showcase it to the world. I think that's going to be the winning factor there.
I know when we last spoke, I remember it vividly. A UFC call, all that chatter, way in the back of your mind. It wasn't something you were focused on at all. Now you get this fight with the title on the line. It's going to be on the UFC's streaming service. Has that stance changed at all? Are you still looking at it way in the back of your mind, or has it started to creep up a little more?
Not even a thought in my head. To me, that's like how we started this conversation. It's like me assuming I'm going to get the coronavirus, right? I'm not. It's not even on my radar. If it happens, it happens. I'll be excited about it. But right now, my main focus is bringing that LFA middleweight title home to where it belongs, and that's where I'm at.
Do you already have a spot in the house for the belt yet?
Not yet. We'll determine that as soon as it gets in my hands.
Fair enough. Big event, big title fight for the surging Daniel Madrid, looking to make it 5 straight victories, takes on Impa Kasanganay next Friday night at LFA 84, live on UFC Fight Pass. Always great chatting with you, Daniel. Before we let you go, let the folks know where they can find you on social media, any other shout-outs, anything else you want to get off your chest. The floor is yours.
Perfect, man. Yeah, you can find me on Facebook. Just search for Daniel Madrid or Demigod. On Twitter, it's Daniel DG Madrid. Instagram, it's Daniel Demigod Madrid. Shout outs to all my family, my friends, my gym, Legion MMA, all my coaches, my training staff, my sponsors, 101 Auto Outlet, Clay Coffee, Floatology. Without these people, man, it's a lot harder to do what I do.
Awesome. Thank you for the time, Daniel. All the best to you over the next 8 days and in the fight next Friday.
My brother, I appreciate you, man. You have a great day.